Good evening, good evening, good evening, my YouTube family. I am Tamara Johnson Shealy. And of course, you know what time it is. You know what time it is. We are keeping up with Congress, y'all. Today is Thursday, March the 4th. Thursday, March the 4th. Please hit the like button, subscribe, hit that notification button. Please share. Woo-wee. I'm here, y'all. I'm here. I'm sorry. I'm just like a couple minutes late. I try to always be on time, but burning the candle at both ends today, y'all. So of course, we are holding our elected officials accountable. We are looking for opportunities in legislation. Where is the money? Who is it going to? How do we get some of it? Again, please hit that like, hit that share, hit that notification button, spread the word. Let me share my screen. Of course, this is always brought to you by Withhold the Vote, where we're holding our elected officials and our candidates accountable. We are harnessing our political power. No more do we go to the polls and give this vote away for free. Those days are over. I'm telling you, I call it the pimp game. We're going to have receipts in these political streets. No more. I'm tired of being sick and tired. I'm tired. No more of that. We're going to the polls strategically voting. Let's dive in. I always like to bring you some reparations information. Found this over in, let me make my screen a little larger for you. One more time. Yeah. Washington State Black Lives Matter Alliance launches a reparations for Black Lives legislative push. They're doing a lot of big things over there. I actually was able to dive into what they were initiating, but it says here, the Washington Black Lives Matter Alliance today, this was March the 3rd, this was yesterday, launched reparations for Black lives, a coordinated push to advance 8 bills, part of a package of 17 in total in the Washington State Legislature before a March 9th deadline. The article goes on to say, in the 2021 legislative session, the Alliance has helped advance dozens of life-saving measures in Olympia. 4 bills they oppose have already gone down to defeat, including one that would have instructed police officers on how to choke better. Oh my Lord. Would have instructed police officers on how to choke better, y'all. Oh my gosh. This is Washington State, the Black Lives Matter over there. I actually went to their website, wanted to see what they were doing. They have a list of priority bills I thought was very, very interesting. Keep Black kids with their families, environmental justice, capital gains tax, right to work, post-incarceration, emergency tenant protections, remove barriers to police accountability, wash out past convictions, ban on private prisons, fire police for bad use of excessive force, transparency on police misconduct and complaints, background checks for cops, juvenile rights to counsel, ban violent police tactics, sue police for misconduct. They are not playing over in Washington State. I ain't mad at them. Require community oversight boards for police, mandate statewide independent police investigations, make deadly force the last resort for police. Y'all, they are not playing. They are not playing. I ain't mad at them. Washington State Black Lives Matter, y'all. We have to give credit where credit is due. They're doing the doggone work in Washington State. Let's make this one a little bit bigger for you. I like to bring you some business news as well. It says the U.S. needs a third reconstruction, and businesses should lead it, right? Thought this was a really interesting article. Said it is now time for a new reconstruction. And this time it should be led by corporate America. It says all Americans, taxpayers, corporations, and investors stand to benefit from the reduced cost of systemic barriers and the unleashed productivity potential of Black people. I agree. Business just needs the courage and the conviction to act. Goes on to talk about the first two U.S. reconstructions, they failed. The first reconstruction intended to help freed slaves after the Civil War failed because it was met with violent resistance, literally and figuratively, right? By former Confederate officers and former slave owners. Oppressive decisions by the U.S. Supreme Court and the Compromise of 1877 that led to the removal of protective federal soldiers from the South and the emergence of Jim Crow. Goes on to talk about the second Reconstruction of the 1950s and 60s, intended to give Black people the rights to full citizenship. And it says it failed because of polarizing racial rhetoric, pitting working class whites against Black people and corporate efforts to advance conservative values, and led a retreat from civic and employee gains made after World War II. It goes on to say it took economic pressure in the form of boycotts and civil disobedience to end government-sanctioned de jure oppression of Black people. Oppression of Black people historically has been seen as a Black problem. It says new research reveals the truth. Citigroup estimates systemic racism cost the American economy $16 trillion over the last 20 years. Yep. Keeping their knee on our neck, right? I'm going to save this article because I think we're going to have to come back and reference this. Let me save that one. But let's dive into the legislation, y'all. Our House bills. H.R. 676 is called the Learning Recovery Act of 2021. Representative Robert Bobby Scott, Democrat out of Virginia, took a dive into this one and found out this means, who is he? Here he is. He goes on to say lawmakers push $75 billion for learning recovery among a trio of COVID-19 bills. This is Representative Bobby Scott, Democrat out of Virginia. So it goes on to say congressional Democrats are proposing $75 billion over 2 years to help schools re-engage with missing students. Now, I've heard about that a lot of these kids, they can't find them. They didn't come back to school this year. So re-engage with missing students and to help them diagnose and address learning interruptions and other issues caused by the coronavirus pandemic. The Learning Recovery Act is one of 3 bills lawmakers are rolling out to address various K-12 education needs. Yeah, I have heard about these kids that are missing, that didn't come back to school this year. They don't know where they are, and they don't know what to do. So this is the Learning Recovery Act, Representative Bobby Scott, Democrat out of Virginia. H.R. 677, the Justice Act. A lot of these bills don't have the current text. It says summary still in progress, if you can see down here at the bottom. So I had, of course, have to do my research, y'all. I looked it up and I found this was from June of 2020, the Justice Act. So I'm just going to assume that it's maybe the same language. So it goes on to say the Republicans unveiled the Justice Act aimed at policing reform and they propose a fast track action. Who's the legislator? This is Representative Pete Stauber, Republican out of Minnesota. It says Senate Republicans unveiled their proposal Wednesday, which is, like I said, this was back in June, to reform law enforcement practices, including new accountability training and de-escalation measures, including incentives to limit controversial tactics like chokeholds, as protests and demands for change have raged across the country in the wake of 2 high-profile cases of Black men being killed by police officers. So these are Republican-led initiatives for police reform. Interesting. We don't hear a lot about that. So Representative Pete Stauber, Republican out of Minnesota, the Justice Act. Interesting. The Democrats want to take claim to what they're going to do for policing, which we haven't seen a whole lot of it, but I'm encouraged when I see the Republicans doing something. We'll take it. This is, this is the Justice Act from the 116th Congress. So yeah, This was last session, to improve and reform police practice, accountability, and transparency. So I did find the bill from last session. HR 678, the Phone Act, the Phone, Phone, Phone Act of 2021. This is Representative Mike Thompson, Democrat out of California. Phone Act, definitely look that up. So this Phone Act is bipartisan legislation that would allow disaster survivors who lost their homes to keep their phone numbers while they rebuild at no cost to them. I didn't know that was an issue, but now we know. Like I said, keeping up with Congress, a lot of this stuff we don't know. But under the Phone Act, those who suffer the catastrophe of losing their homes won't also suffer the loss of their home phone number. So this is to make sure that they keep their home phone numbers. Federal regulations, I guess, around telecommunications. The Phone Act, HR 678. We're learning, y'all, keeping up with Congress. HR 679, Effective Drug Control Strategy Act of 2021. This is Representative David Trone, Trone, Representative David Trone, Democrat out of Maryland. Effective Drug Control Strategy Act. I looked it up. Goes on to talk about the Effective Drug Control Strategy Act would require the Office of National Drug Control Policy to evaluate the efficacy of federal funded initiatives aimed at reducing demand for illicit substances and publish information online of these initiatives in a central location that will permit watchdogs, the press, and the public at large to hold the government accountable for addressing the opioid crisis. Monitoring and evaluation of this kind is not required by law at this time. So we're going to address the opioid crisis with HR 679, Effective Drug Control Strategy Act. Representative Trone, David Trone, Democrat out of Maryland. HR 680, for the relief of Arpita Kurdikar, Garish Kurdikar, and Vandana Kurdikar. So this is introduced by Representative Ann Custer, Democrat out of New Hampshire. I didn't know who Arpita Kurdikar was, so I looked her up. So here's her story. It says, on September the 19th, 2016, while walking down her driveway on her way to the gym after work, Arpita was struck by a large tree branch that fell from 4 stories above. Her neck was broken instantly and she was paralyzed. When she was found, she was conscious and able to speak. Her roommate called 911 and she was rushed to the hospital ICU, where doctors put her on a breathing ventilator and assessed her injury. Luckily, there was no brain damage beyond a small bleed, and the spinal injury was not the most severe type of injury imaginable. This goes on to say there's a long journey of rehabilitation and recovery ahead for Arpita. At this point, doctors aren't sure if she'll get full use of her arms or if she'll ever walk again. So this is the story of Arpita Kurdikar. And I looked it up a bit further to figure out what is it that they wanted to do for her. So this goes on to say, enacting each of these 4 bills, is like a combination of bills, could increase direct spending and reduce revenues because lawful permanent residents are eligible for certain federal benefits such as Medicaid and premium tax credits for health insurance purchased through the marketplace established by the Affordable Care Act if they otherwise meet the eligibility requirement for those benefits. So this is to help her with her medical expenses. Arpita Kurdikar. And this is introduced by Representative Custer. I guess they name it it's been initiated federally so that we could amend. It's healthcare. It's healthcare for immigrants. Arpita. Okay. HR 681, for the relief of Rebecca Trimble, I didn't know who Rebecca Trimble was. You know what? I did. I didn't remember her name. This was actually in law school last year when I took immigration. This was a case that we actually took a look at. So Rebecca Trimble goes on to say in this article, nearly a year later, Rebecca Trimble is still in deportation limbo. It says nearly a year after being threatened with deportation by the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, Bethel resident Rebecca Trimble is still in immigration limbo. Trimble was adopted from Mexico as a baby by an American couple and brought to the United States in 1989. In 2012, when attempting to get a real ID in Washington state, she was informed by the government that she was not a United States citizen because her adoption had not been legal. She and her husband have been fighting to fix the situation since. So talks about how some of the how this legislation has proceeded. So Senators Lisa Murkowski, Republican out of Alaska, and Dan Sullivan, Republican out of Alaska, introduced a private bill in the U.S. Senate on March 12 of 2020 to make Trimble a permanent resident. The bill never got a hearing. On July 7, 2020, the New York Times published a story about Trimble, a woman without a country, adopted at birth and deportable at 30. So yes, this was a case that we actually took a look at in law school. So I did remember it. I just didn't remember her name. So this is Rebecca Trimble, HR 681. This is introduced by Don Young, Representative Don Young, Republican out of Alaska. HR 682, Reopen Schools Act, Representative Ashley Henson, Republican out of Iowa. Reopen Schools Act. Yeah. These kids are going to have to go back to school, y'all. I don't know how they're going to do it, but in the fall, I think that they're going to have to go back, whether it's on some sort of rotating schedule, but they have to go back. So HR 682, Republican, Representative Henson, Ashley Henson out of Iowa. HR 683, Apprenticeship Access for All Act of 2021. This is introduced by Representative Alma Adams, y'all. Look at her hat, boy. She's sharp now. She's sharp, and the little hat matched the little scarf and coming out of her little jacket. She's sharp now. So this Apprenticeship Access for All Act of 2021 directs the Department of Labor to advance programs that promote the recruitment, employment, and retention of people of color, individuals with disabilities, and individuals facing barriers to employment, especially in high skill, high wage, and in-demand industry sectors and occupations. This is her comment I wanted to highlight. It says, the pandemic has exacerbated long-standing workforce inequities facing our nation's most vulnerable and marginalized. This bill strengthens the National Apprenticeship Act and ensures that everyone has access to equal opportunity as we seek to build back better. All right, Miss Alma. I do believe in apprenticeships, y'all. I absolutely do. So Representative Alma Adams, Democrat out of North Carolina, HR 683. HR 684, we've seen this one before, the Keystone XL Pipe Construction Jobs and Preservation Act. This is introduced by Representative Armstrong, Kelly Armstrong, Republican out of North Dakota. Of course, you know, I'll refresh you on this Keystone. It says, what is the Keystone XL pipeline? Y'all, this thing is massive, massive. Many have hoped that the disastrous project was finally done for in 2015 when Obama administration vetoed the pipeline, acknowledging its pervasive threat to climate, ecosystems, drinking water sources, and public health, and advancing a national commitment to decreasing our reliance on dirty energy. But immediately after taking office, President Trump reversed course and signed an executive order to advance the Keystone XL as well as the Dakota Access Pipeline. It goes on to say, since then, President Trump has personally issued the pipeline's developer its long-sought cross-border permit, and his administration has attempted to grant additional permits for the project, all based on faulty environmental reviews. As President-elect Joe Biden prepares to enter the White House, he has signaled that canceling Keystone XL's permit will be a top priority. I was listening to a podcast last night. Shout out to Donovan Sadiq, y'all. If you hadn't looked him up, you got to look him up. He is hilarious. He went in. I think he cussed everybody out. I mean, he was talking about policy, but then he would turn around and he cuss them all out. It was hilarious, but it was a lot of good information in there. He was talking about how Joe Biden, has done a lot of executive orders, well into like well over 100 executive orders that he has put his signature on. A lot of them, quote unquote, are reversals from what Donald Trump had done. But Donovan's point was he's not really nothing specific to Black people. So Joe Biden, we waiting. You're going to have to get this right. This Keystone pipeline, y'all, let me show you the map right here. It will go from Canada all the way up in Canada. Let me make this a little smaller so you can actually see it better. It will go from Canada through North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, and all the way down to Texas, y'all. And even over to the east through Missouri and Illinois. So that's Senate. That's HR 684, the Keystone XL Pipeline Construction and Jobs Preservation Act. They still trying. HR 685, the Coronavirus Unemployment Benefits Tax Relief Act. Y'all, in the midst of this pandemic, when people need every dime and every dollar with unemployment, why are we taxing that money? America, damn. Tax time surprise. This came out just yesterday. That COVID-19 unemployment benefits led to higher tax bill for unsuspecting filers. Americans who sought unemployment aid during the economic downturn caused by the COVID-19 pandemic may face another financial burden when it comes time to pay taxes. Federal and most state governments count unemployment benefits as taxable income. And unlike a typical paycheck, taxes aren't automatically withheld from jobless aid. Such deductions must be manually enacted by checking a box on the unemployment application. Oh my gosh, I swear. I just, like I say, in a time where if they're getting unemployment, they need every dollar and every cent. We should have some sort of break. So here it is, HR 685. Thank you, Cynthia Axon, Democrat out of Iowa, Coronavirus Unemployment Benefits Tax Relief Act, HR 685. HR 686, the Security Clearance Review Act. This bill imposes security-related requirements with respect to political appointees in the executive office of the president. I think this probably has something to do with Donald Trump. Something happened with the security clearance and something's all tangled up because this is a Democrat, Representative Bayer, Donald Bayer, Democrat out of Virginia. So I'm trying to untangle something I believe that Donald Trump has done. That's just a speculation, but reading it, it says under this bill, such a political appointee may be employed in the office only if the appointee is clearly consistent with national security. So Donald Trump was letting his folks all up in there. It says only if the appointment is clearly consistent with national security. Number 2, may not have a security clearance or access to classified information unless the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, grants such clearance or access, and unless the president nullifies the FBI's decision to deny clearance or access. So yeah, Donald Trump jacked up some stuff. HR 686, Donald Bayer, Democrat out of Virginia, y'all. HR 687 is the BRICS Act. BRICS. I had to look that one up too. So this one, y'all, this is like a slap in the face, right? This is like the pot calling the kettle black. Listen to this. This is Representative Buck, Ken Buck, Republican out of Colorado. So he introduced this bill last session. It says, in response to the latest reports of Antifa. Now, like I said, he's a Republican. So he introduced this bill in response to the latest reports of Antifa and other left-wing groups inciting riots and violently attacking peaceful demonstrators over the weekend. Congressman Kim Buck, Republican, Colorado, introduced the Blocking Rioters and Insurrectionists from Our Cities to Keep Us Safe, the BRICS Act. This bill increases penalties for inciting, organizing, aiding, abetting, or funding riots from 5 years to 10 years. The BRICS Act also adds an escalator clause in which penalties may increase to 25 years in prison if serious bodily injury is inflicted. Violators may face up to life in prison if death results from their actions. Now, this was before January, what happened in January, right? He goes on to say, this was from November. He goes on to say, this year, we've seen an unprecedented amount of violence from rioters organized by Antifa and other radically leftist groups. It's time to take action against anarchist groups that have wreaked havoc across the country, and the BRICS Act does just that. Goes on to say, in order to truly restore unity in this country, Congress must support efforts like this to stop the violence perpetrated by the far left. We need to restore the livelihood of our communities and hold these criminals accountable for their large-scale destruction once and for all. He was tough on the left, but really it was the right. HR 687. He bought it back. So maybe he didn't want to look bad. I don't know. I would laugh. I would probably laugh at this. Like, okay, what are you're gonna go get your own now? HR 687, y'all. HR 688, Equal Access to Care Act. Representative Ted Budd, Republican out of North Carolina. Equal access to care. I actually looked it up, and it was a bill that Senator Cruz and Senator Blackburn introduced over in the Senate. So last year, so I'm thinking maybe it's the same, but it reads like this. It says legislation to expand access to telemedicine during the coronavirus emergency period by allowing licensed healthcare providers to treat patients over the phone and online wherever the patient is located. So maybe it didn't pass and they're still working on it, but this was introduced over in the Senate, Ted Cruz and Blackburn. But this is a House bill. Representative Michael Burgess, Republican out of Texas. HR 688. Representative Ted Budd, Republican out of North Carolina. HR 688. HR 689, here we are with Michael Burgess, Representative Michael Burgess, the Premium Relief Act of 2021 to amend the Public Health Service Act to provide for patient and state stability fund. Not quite sure what that is, Representative Burgess, but we see you. HR 689, Republican out of Texas, Michael Burgess. HR 690, Ensuring the Safety of Our Mail Act of 2021. The safety of our mail, I looked it up in the last Congress. It was to increase from 5 to 10 years the maximum prison term for a defendant who commits mail theft. So that was last Congress over in the House. That's what it was over there. This Congress, Representative Ken Calvert, Republican out of California, HR 690. And we are at the half hour, y'all. We are at the half hour. I am Tamara Johnson Shealy. And what a week, what a week, what a week. Please hit the like button, subscribe, notification, please share. Thank you for joining me tonight. You know I'm coming back to you Monday, same time, right here on YouTube, 7:00 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. And we're going to keep our eyes on Congress. No more do we go to the polls and give this thing away for free. No more. No more. This ain't free. The pimp game is over. Like I said, we're going to have receipts in these political streets. Please share and spread the word about Withhold the Vote. We had a great meeting last night. Lots of stuff to come. We're getting there. We're getting there. It's a walk. This is a journey. It's a journey. And I realized that, I raised kids and that was a journey. I worked in the beauty and barber industry for just as many years as I raised my kids. They're grown now. And now maybe this is the third leg of my journey in life, this advocacy to the extent that I'm doing. But, I'm committed. I'm here again, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 7:00 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. right here on YouTube. Spread the word, spread the word, spread the word. Go to the website, join us, support, be a part of the process. We cannot do this. I cannot do this without you, and I don't intend to. So I thank you for joining me tonight. Y'all have a wonderful weekend. Make sure you tune in on Saturday at 11:00. We're going to be talking about Cuba and America, y'all. Cuba and America. I don't know a whole lot about Cuba and what's going on, but we're going to talk about it at 11 a.m. Eastern. Cuba. We got a special guest that I actually heard on Sirius XM, and I was able to get in touch with him, and he has agreed to come on the broadcast. So it's going to be very interesting. So make sure you tune in on Saturday at 11 a.m. with me and Robbie and David and our guests out of the Washington, D.C. area. And we're going to talk about Cuba. We're going to learn. We're going to be learning some stuff, y'all. All right. I'll put your comments up on the screen on our way out. You guys have a wonderful weekend. Please go to the website. Again, withholdthevote.org. Have a great weekend, everybody.